You know what's wild? After spending 3 decades watching TV technology evolve from bulky tube sets to paper-thin screens, I thought I had this whole thing figured out. OLED for the best picture, QLED for bright rooms, regular LED for people on a budget. Simple, right? But 2026 has completely flipped the script in ways that even I didn't see coming. The technology that's actually winning right now isn't the one most experts predicted. And when you understand why, it's going to change how you think about your next TV purchase. I remember when my parents bought their first color TV back in the 70s, and that zenith lasted them over 20 years. Today, we're dealing with firmware updates, smart features that become obsolete, and panel lotteries where one person gets an amazing screen while another gets a mediocre one from the exact same model number. The landscape has changed dramatically, but so has the performance ceiling. Before we dive into this, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos like this. And I'm genuinely curious, which TV are you using right now, and what problems are you facing with it? Drop a comment below because your real-world experience helps other viewers make better decisions. The links to everything I mentioned today are in the description below. Whether you're dealing with backlight bleed, burn-in concerns, or just confusion about which technology to choose, your insights matter. Understanding the foundation. Let's start by breaking down what these technologies actually are, because the marketing language makes everything sound more complicated than it needs to be. When you see a TV labeled as LED, you're actually looking at an LCD panel with LED lights behind it. Those liquid crystals don't produce any light themselves. They're like tiny shutters that open and close to let the backlight shine through, and this creates the image you see. Think of it like holding a flashlight behind a stained glass window. The window controls what colors you see, but the light comes from behind. This technology has been the foundation of flat-screen TVs since manufacturers moved away from plasma displays in the late 2000s. This technology has been around since the early 2000s, and it works, but it has a fundamental limitation. Because that backlight is always on across the entire screen, even when you're trying to display black, you're really just displaying a very dark gray. The light bleeds through a little bit, and you end up with what people call backlight bleed. When you're watching a movie in a dark room and you see those black bars at the top and bottom of the screen, they often have a slight glow to them rather than being truly black. Some TVs handle this better than others through something called local dimming, where the backlight gets divided into zones that can dim independently. Better LED TVs might have dozens of zones, and premium models can have hundreds or even thousands. The evolution from edge-lit LEDs to full-array local dimming marked a significant improvement in picture quality over the past decade, but it still couldn't solve the fundamental physics problem of trying to block light completely with liquid crystal shutters. Now, QLED takes that same foundation and adds something called quantum dots. These are tiny nanocrystals that sit between the backlight and the LCD panel. Samsung pioneered this approach and markets it heavily as their premium technology. When light from the backlight passes through these quantum dots, they emit very pure, saturated colors. The result is a picture that can be incredibly vivid and bright, sometimes pushing past 2000 nits in peak highlights. If you've ever seen a really impressive QLED TV in a bright showroom, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The colors stay vibrant even when sunlight is washing over the screen, and HDR content can have a real wow factor with brilliant highlights and rich colors. What makes quantum dots special is their ability to produce a wider color gamut without the color filters that traditional LCDs rely on, which means less light gets wasted and more gets through to your eyes. This efficiency boost is part of what allows QLED to achieve such impressive brightness levels that make them ideal for rooms with lots of ambient light. But here's the thing that QLED doesn't solve. It's still an LCD panel with a backlight behind it, which means it has the same fundamental contrast limitations as regular LED technology. Yes, the best QLED sets use something called mini LED backlighting with thousands of dimming zones, and that makes a significant difference. But those pixels still can't turn off completely. In a truly dark room, you'll still see some glow where there should be pure darkness. This is the inherent compromise of any backlit technology. no matter how sophisticated the local dimming algorithm becomes. The OLED difference. OLED is where things get fundamentally different, and this is important to understand. Unlike LED and QLED, which need a backlight, each pixel in an OLED screen produces its own light. When the TV needs to display black, those pixels simply turn off completely. The result is what's called an infinite contrast ratio. Watch a movie with a space scene or a night sequence, and the blacks are as deep as if the TV were turned off. There's no glow, no blooming around bright objects, no compromises. This is because OLED stands for Organic Light Emitting Diode, and each pixel contains organic compounds that emit light when electricity passes through them. It's a fundamentally different approach from trying to block or filter light from a separate source. This gives OLED some other advantages too. Viewing angles are exceptional because there's no backlight to cause color shifting when you sit off to the side. Response times are nearly instantaneous, which matters a lot for gaming and fast sports. And because these panels emit their own light, they can be made incredibly thin. Some OLED TVs are almost unnervingly slim when you see them in person. There are actually two main types of OLED technology you'll encounter. OLED, which LG pioneered, uses white OLED pixels with color filters, while QD-OLED combines OLED with quantum dots for even purer color reproduction. Samsung's QD-OLED approach takes blue OLED pixels and uses quantum dots to convert some of that blue light into red and green, creating colors that are even more saturated and accurate than traditional OLED panels. But OLED has trade-offs you need to understand before spending the money. First is brightness. While 2026 models have improved significantly, they still can't match the peak brightness of high-end QLED sets in every situation. In a very bright room with direct sunlight, OLED can look dimmer and more washed out than you'd like. This doesn't mean the picture is bad, but it's noticeably different from what you'd experience in a controlled lighting environment. The organic materials in OLED panels have limitations on how much current you can push through them before they start to degrade faster, which is why manufacturers have to balance brightness with longevity. Then there's the burn-in question, and I want to be honest about this because it gets exaggerated in online discussions. If you leave static images on the screen for extended periods day after day, those images can cause permanent retention in the pixels. This mostly affects people who watch cable news with persistent logos for hours, or who use their TV as a computer monitor with static interface elements. Most normal viewing with varied content shouldn't cause issues. Manufacturers now offer warranties against burn-in on many models, which suggests they're confident in the technology's durability. But it's still something to consider based on your viewing habits. The reality is that OLED panels do age over time, with blue pixels typically degrading faster than red or green, which can eventually lead to color shifting. Modern panels have built-in compensation cycles and pixel shifting technologies to mitigate this, but it remains a consideration for longevity-conscious buyers. The 2026 surprise that changes everything. Here's where we get to the shocking development that even surprised me. Mini LED technology, which is really an advanced form of QLED, has reached a point where it's delivering picture quality that rivals OLED for contrast while maintaining all the brightness advantages of LED technology. And it's doing this at prices that are significantly lower than OLED. When Mini LED first appeared a few years ago, it was promising but not quite there yet. The zone counts were lower, the algorithms weren't as refined, and you could still spot obvious blooming in challenging content. But the pace of improvement has been remarkable. Let me explain what makes Mini LED different. Traditional LED backlights use relatively large LEDs, which limits how many zones you can create for local dimming. Mini LED uses LEDs that are dramatically smaller, about 1 millimeter or less. This allows manufacturers to pack thousands of them behind the screen, creating thousands of individual dimming zones. Some 2026 models have 5,000 zones or more. When you combine this with quantum dots for color, you get a technology that can display nearly perfect blacks by turning off the backlight in dark areas while still delivering brilliant brightness and highlights. The key is that with thousands of zones, the TV can much more precisely control which areas of the screen are lit and which which are dark, dramatically reducing the blooming effect that plagued earlier local dimming implementations. Models like the TCL QM8K and the Hisense U8QG are delivering what reviewers call OLED-light contrast at roughly half the price of comparable OLED sets. They're not quite perfect. You can occasionally spot some blooming in very specific test patterns. But in real-world viewing with actual movies and shows, the difference between these high-end mini-LED sets and OLED is genuinely hard to see. And they're bright, sometimes dramatically so, which makes them more versatile in different lighting conditions. I've spent time comparing these sets side by side with premium OLEDs, and unless you're specifically looking for problems or watching test content designed to expose weaknesses, the average viewer would be hard-pressed to declare one clearly superior to the other. That's a statement I wouldn't have made even 2 years ago. This wasn't what I expected when I started researching this topic. I thought OLED would still be the undisputed champion for picture quality, with everything else being a compromise. But mini LED technology has advanced faster than most of us anticipated. Sony and Samsung are bringing out models that use even more sophisticated backlight control, and early reviews suggest these are closing the gap even further. We're reaching a point where the choice between technologies isn't about which one is objectively better, but rather which strengths and trade-offs align with your specific needs. The processing algorithms that control these mini LED zones have become remarkably sophisticated, using artificial intelligence to predict how each zone should behave based on the content being displayed. New technologies blurring the lines. There's another development in 2026 that's shaking things up. Samsung's QD-OLED technology combines quantum dots with OLED panels, addressing some of the traditional OLED brightness limitations. Their S95H model can hit 2700 nits peak brightness, which is getting into QLED territory while maintaining those perfect OLED blacks. LG has responded with their tandem OLED technology in the G5 series, which stacks 2 OLED layers for improved brightness without sacrificing the benefits of self-emissive pixels. This tandem approach essentially doubles the light output for a given amount of current, which means the TV can get brighter without pushing the organic materials as hard, potentially improving longevity as well. What's really interesting is that these advances are challenging old assumptions about what each technology can and can't do. We used to say OLED was dim, but these new panels are matching QLED brightness. We used to say QLED couldn't do deep blacks, but mini LED with thousands of zones is getting remarkably close. Even the burn-in concerns with OLED are being addressed through better panel materials and software protection. Samsung's matte screen technology on their QD-OLED panels has also solved another traditional OLED weakness, which is reflection handling. These new matte OLEDs can maintain deep blacks while also rejecting ambient light reflections much better than glossy OLED panels, making them more practical for rooms where you can't completely control the lighting. And then there's something called micro RGB LED technology emerging as a premium alternative. This uses microscopic LEDs that can produce their own colored light without needing quantum dots or LCD shutters. It blends the precision of LED with the color accuracy of OLED without the burn-in risks. It's expensive right now and only available in a few high-end models, but it represents where the industry might be heading. Think of it as taking the self-emissive pixel concept from OLED but using inorganic LEDs instead of organic materials, which should theoretically last longer and avoid burn-in entirely, while still delivering perfect blacks and infinite contrast. Performance where it actually matters. Let's talk about real-world performance, because specifications only tell part of the story. When you're watching TV during the day with windows open and sunlight streaming in, brightness becomes the most important factor. This is where QLED and mini LED technologies shine, literally. They can push enough light to overcome ambient glare and keep colors looking vibrant. Traditional OLED struggles here because it can't get bright enough to compete with that much ambient light. Your eyes end up straining to see detail in darker scenes, and the overall picture looks washed out. I've tested this extensively in my own living room, which has large west-facing windows that get afternoon sun, and the difference is immediately apparent. A QLED set maintains its punch and vibrancy throughout the day, while even the brightest OLED looks somewhat subdued when fighting against natural light. But flip the scenario. You're watching a movie at night with the lights off. Maybe it's something atmospheric like a thriller or a space film with lots of dark scenes. This is where OLED has traditionally dominated because those perfect blacks create a sense of depth that backlit technologies couldn't match. You see every star in the night sky, every shadow in a dimly lit room without any glow or halo effects. The image feels more three-dimensional and immersive. When you watch something like Dune or Blade Runner 2049, which have extensive dark sequences with occasional bright elements, OLED creates an experience that feels more cinematic because the blacks frame the bright elements perfectly without any distraction. Here's what's changed in 2026. High-end mini LED sets with thousands of dimming zones are now delivering that same level of contrast in most scenes. Unless you're really scrutinizing the picture, you're not going to notice a significant difference between a premium mini LED and an OLED in a dark room. That's a massive development because it means you're no longer forced to choose between bright room and dark room performance. Mini LED gives you both, excelling in bright conditions while delivering satisfying performance in dark rooms. For gaming, response time matters a lot, and this is where OLED still has a measurable advantage with near instantaneous pixel response, meaning less motion blur. But Mini LED has closed the gap. The best gaming-focused Mini LED sets are fast enough for competitive gaming and offer higher brightness for HDR gaming. Games like Cyberpunk 2077 or Alan Wake 2 really pop on a high-brightness Mini LED display in ways that even OLED can't quite match. Viewing angles don't get talked about enough. If you have a wide seating arrangement, OLED maintains consistent color and contrast from any angle. LED and QLED technologies, even with Mini LED backlighting, can show color shifting and contrast loss when you're sitting off to the side. This matters more than you might think if you have a large family or frequently host viewing parties. The price and value equation. Let's address cost. OLED has always been the premium option, and they're still the most expensive choice at any given screen size. OLED manufacturing requires extremely clean facilities and precise control, which adds expense. Additionally, larger OLED panels become exponentially more difficult and expensive to produce. QLED sits in the middle ground, costing more than basic LED but less than OLED. Mini LED QLED can push prices up toward OLED territory when you're looking at flagship models, but you're getting comparable performance for bright room viewing. The manufacturing process for QLED adds cost because of the quantum dot film, but it's still more mature and scalable than OLED production. Standard LED remains the budget option, and honestly, the picture quality has improved enough that you can get a perfectly watchable TV for reasonable money. Many people would be perfectly happy with a good LED TV, especially if they're not comparing it directly to premium displays. Here's the surprising value proposition for 2026. High-end mini LED sets from brands like TCL and Hisense are delivering picture quality that rivals OLED at roughly half the price. A 75-inch OLED might cost you $3,000, while a comparable mini LED set could be $1,500. That's significant, especially when the visual experience in most real-world viewing conditions is remarkably close. Smart buying considerations. When you're actually shopping for a TV, there are practical considerations beyond just the panel technology. Different stores often carry different versions of what appears to be the same model. A Samsung TV at one retailer might have a slightly different model number, and those variations can indicate different features or components. Manufacturers create retailer-specific versions to avoid direct price comparisons. It's just business. But it means you need to look at the complete model number and compare specifications directly. Sometimes the differences are minor, but occasionally they can involve different panel technologies or processing chips that affect picture quality. Panel quality can vary even within the same model due to manufacturing tolerances. This is why a good return policy matters. I always recommend buying from retailers with generous return windows, even if it costs slightly more, because having that flexibility is worth the peace of mind. The real winner for 2026. After all this analysis, here's my conclusion. For most people, the surprising winner in 2026 is high-end mini LED QLED technology. It delivers contrast that's close enough to OLED that you'd need them side by side in a dark room to see meaningful differences. It's bright enough to handle any lighting condition, doesn't have burn-in concerns, and costs significantly less. Models like the TCL-QM 8K and Hisense U8QG are giving you OLED-like picture quality at half the price. That said, if you're a true enthusiast who watches primarily in a dark room and wants the absolute best contrast regardless of price, OLED is still the pinnacle. The newest tandem OLED and QD-OLED models have also addressed many traditional weaknesses around brightness, making them more versatile than ever before. What's really exciting about 2026 is that you can't go wrong with any of these technologies if you choose the right one for your needs. Technology has genuinely improved across all categories. You can get a very good TV for reasonable money if you know what you're looking for. The key is being honest about your viewing habits and environment. Don't buy an OLED because someone online says it's the best if you watch TV in a bright room during the day. Match the technology strengths to your specific needs, and you'll end up with a TV you're genuinely happy with. I hope this gave you a clearer picture of where TV technology stands in 2026. If this straightforward information was helpful, please hit that like button, subscribe for more content like this, and share this video. Drop a comment about your current TV and any issues you're experiencing. Don't forget to check the description for links to all the models we talked about today. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your decision.